JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, July 15th, 3:36 p.m. Talk real quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P is down about 0.25%. NASDAQ is still holding into the green about 0.25%. And then small caps, the Dow is down nearly 1%. Do I have that right? Some of that's the banks, right? So JP Morgan's a big part of the Dow. It's not taking on a chin here today, but uh, and then the small caps get destroyed, down another 1.5%. And in the red year to date, well, the IWM is uh, one of these weeks, months, years. Small caps will start to outperform, but just been frustrating or uh, disappointing, I guess is a good word to use. I think now the more I'm looking at what's going on, the US dollar, by the way, is having a phenomenal day. So it's already up, I think, 8 sessions in a row. And then today, I think it's gonna make it 9. I have to go look. It's either 8 or 9, and it's having like it's up 0.5% here today. So the whole bearish sell the dollar. A lot of folks, I'm not gonna name names, who are pounding their chest, who pound their chest every single day, um, are quiet on the dollar. They were short the dollar 8 days ago, 9 days ago. But anyway, not. I mean, I've been wrong on gold too. So I'm not saying right or wrong. Uh, so I think more of what's with the small caps now is the yields, right? So inflation data, nothing crazy this morning, although, it depends on what publication you read, right? If you read one that's more liberal leaning, it's inflation accelerated, right? If you read one on the flip side, it's inflation came in lower than expectations. So, it's like 2 cents, whatever you want to call it, to me, there was no huge surprises, so that's a good thing. So futures rose, and then it's like the market just gave it back. I put in the watch this morning. I hate gaps on the SPY, right? Especially big gaps. So we gave it back. Then we've just been chopping around in the red. Hit lows at 130 or so at 623. Bounced back here at lows again. So no, nothing groundbreaking here today. You just want to see yields not continue, right? And the 30-year went over 5%. You have, you know, Japan yields are soaring again. So this yield story's gotta come to an end. So whether that's, the shadow Fed situation rears its head, I don't know. The inflation data certainly doesn't give the Fed even more ammo to cut rates sooner rather than later. So we'll see how this all plays out. But all things considered, market's still right at all-time highs. And again, I just want to see the small caps outperform. So 617, 628 on the SPY. So we're still in that channel. Maybe some more consolidation tomorrow. We have PPI data. ASML, I think, reports in the morning. We also have more Fed speak. And then, Netflix earnings Thursday, retail sales data Thursday. And we'll see how PPI comes out. I mean, it's certainly, if it's in line, don't think it'll move markets too much. All right, so that's kind of overall markets. And then take a look at the US dollar. And this is kind of like just a daily chart. It's as of, like 5-10 minutes ago. Annotations on here or indicators, probably not as relevant for the US dollar as if for individual names, but I just popped it in there so at least I have a point of reference here. And I think that is 9 days in a row. I'll have to go look in a second. And also look at the candle on the dollar, right? It's probably its biggest move since start of the month. So, and I think this started at the start of July. All right, so that's overall market. So then now just individual names. Obviously, TTD is the big one. This time yesterday afternoon, TTD was hitting lows after, well, not hitting lows, but melting from highs or continuing its melt. Then it had that news addition to the S&P 500 yesterday, and then we have the gap. So, I was talking about, I put it on the watch list too, levels, right? So the first thing was that the 80, I think it's like 80-20 was the level from last earnings that it ran up to, and then it's been consolidating ever since. Then you go all the way back to mid-February, and I think it was 85-20, somewhere in there was the level it came down to. So 85-20 was kind of like my line in the sand. So the stock opened, it was 85, then 84.90, then 85. Then it went all the way up into I think it hit 86. So I used that to close some of my calls out for over 1,000%. And then it started to give back some of those gains. And then once it broke 85, I gave it like 30 seconds or a minute, and then I closed the rest out for uh, 39. I'm not doing the math here, 800% or so. So just nice to have a trade to start the week off, right? And kind of allows to be a little more aggressive maybe towards the end of the week. So I was looking to possibly add some more strikes here, and I put in levels here, and you start looking at this level. I um I don't know if it's going to come down and retest those 80s, so I don't want to be in a spot where I'm giving back some of the profits. So I don't know if this is a trade I'm going to retake just yet, but certainly I'll continue on the radar. It's all the way down here at 81 and change. So I'd even look what the 82 calls are now. So if I didn't close those out for 1,000%, right now they are the 82 calls. They're still $1.70. So It's still at 500%. All right, so that's TTD. All right, so definitely name, one of the other names I might continue to have on watch in the coming days. And now Joby, right? Just another monster move. They had the news this morning just about another facility being able to make manufacture a plane every 4 weeks, something to that effect, or every 2 weeks, I think it was. Uh, and just talked about Toyota and using their know-how and technical know-how and things like that. Just I don't even think it needed the news, but I mean, just you take out that Friday rally and you're talking, uh, this will be the ninth consecutive day to the upside, and it's not even small. I mean, we're up another 9% here today. Actually, it's almost 10% here, almost at the highs of the session. I look at it, and the more I look at it, it's like I think people are discovering this name and say, "Wow, what maybe you're late." They feel that maybe someone might be late to Uber, right? And finding other names that maybe aren't late to. And then, is this the next run that's going to go from the 20s or whatever, or teens all the way up to 50, 60, 70, 80, 90? I think that's kind of like a far stretch, but I do think there's an opportunity for it to have some overshoot, right? And I've been saying this for the last week or so, that at some point maybe it gets on a run, and these sectors always tend to go on a run. Maybe it's $20, $25 in a couple sessions, right? Some overshoot and then consolidation or major pullback, and then comes back to reality. I don't know if this is it or the continuation of it, like we're in the midst of it, or is this kind of like the end of it? And at some point, we're going to get one of those shorts, Kerrysdale Capital, right? He's probably still out there drooling, probably shorting it right now, waiting for his little bear piece to come out again that he's been wrong on, he or she, or whoever. I don't know. So in lieu of that, I continue to lock some in on the way out. Well, not on the way out, excuse me, on the way out, on the way up. So I locked some more of the August calls in for 300%. And then, I want to be able to use some capital to go out and get the October strike. So I got out the rest of the August 15s, and only because, again, it's like if this pulls back down under $13 or lower, those calls are just going to get destroyed. So um, I'd be happy. Great day, locking the profits. Nothing's wrong with ever locking in profits. Of course, the hard part with the options is the hold, but sometimes, the rationale behind it, I have to consider all other factors, and considering its run it's been on, the possibility that someone's going to come out with a short piece or a downgrade. So that's kind of thought process there. All right. So that's Joby. Also, you take a look at the trend line, and this is not a be all end all, right? I mean, the chart is just one part of the toolbox, but to see it above that trend line, I'm not saying it can't remain above that, especially if there's momentum, like a lot of momentum. But that's another thing that just kind of has me a little cautious. Um, I put it on the on the excuse me, on the Twitter or the private feed. But when I went and got those October strikes, I added those with the premise or the thought possibility that, or the rationale that I'll probably be able to get those even. I'll probably be able to like average down or get lower strikes in October at some point, right? But the October is just in case we have that event where there's continuation and it just goes on a bonkers run, and I don't want to be chasing the October 20 calls at $2, right? A couple of days ago, the October 20s, I think the October 18s were 70 cents or less than that. So, but I guess if you keep that, if you use that as a thought process, I would never have gotten the calls today, right? So, all right, so that's Joby. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the screen here, and also, all right, so then I also added some spec calls here on MDB, which of course 15 minutes ago I was like, it's still melting higher, just hit the highs of the day, 212.39, and boom, it drops $2 in a flash. Actually dropped $3 in a flash. It's another name, right? Had the earnings drop back in February all the way down to 200. I think it's had two or three of them. And then I played bounces. Then it had great earnings in June, gapped all the way up to 240. And then I've been waiting for it to bounce, and it just hasn't. And I've tried to trade a couple times. One of these times to bounce, it's going to be a multi-day move, and it's going to be a monster move. It's going to go from 200 to 235, 240, somewhere in there. It's happened before. It'll do it again. I just want to make sure I'm in it when it does happen. Calls are kind of less expensive than they typically are. Plenty of time to option expiration on Friday, so I got those lottos. SERV Robotics. Well, I mean, what else to say about this one? I'm not going to continue to do my rants there, but I think it's similar to Joby. At some point, people will be looking for the next play in not only in robotics, robo taxi, whatever that whole theme. SERV Robotics is it. Plenty of cash, huge addressable market, just scaling out partnerships. It was an Uber company. I don't know if it was a company or spinoff or something to that effect. So Also, they have a deal with Uber. 2,000 robots are going to roll out at the end of the year, and then scale. It just a great story. The thing, it's already revenue generating. It's just, um, how fast can they scale and things like that. All right, so that's Joby, and then just some other names. I keep looking at Dexcom as a play, DXCM as a earnings trade play, and I think they report July 31st. The August strikes, the 105s might look interesting on a risk reward basis, but it's kind of just chopping around here. So when you get chop on a stock, all that does is kill premium. So I'll kind of sit on the sidelines there. Still looking to close the rest of my TripAdvisor 17 strikes and roll some further out. Only a matter of time before you get the starboard letter. Baidu's a name I always used to, well, not always, but I was looking at recently, right? I mean, I'm always looking at, and I traded for earnings, locked some calls in for some great profits. I forget how many bags it was. And then it gave back those gains and then some. And then it's just been treading water ever since. And for me, when I look at Baidu now, I always used to think of Baidu in the midst. I used to love Baidu like 2008, 2009 on its monster run, and then it kind of like lost itself. And then I used to call it the Yahoo of China because it kind of lost its prominence, its dominance, however you want to describe it. And then they started throwing because they were still, they still are a cash generating cow. So they would throw cash at all these different initiatives, similar to what Google does, right? Google has spent a lot of money on these initiatives, but those have, they bear fruit for Google, right? The Waymo, the other things that they've done, the Gemini. So when you have a company like Baidu, some of those things they've done, they've been write-offs. I used to talk back in the day. They used to have this. They were big into the online to offline offerings. That's similar to what have panned out to the Uber and now. So anyway, so now you fast forward to now, and it's like I don't know if after their earnings, I'm like, are they back to being the Yahoo of China? So now, I mean, you always had the backdrop of like, oh, they're working with Apple. Baidu's working with Apple on their Ernie AI, right? Then you have Tesla's working with Baidu on robo-taxis. And, it just, the list goes on and on every time. And then it gets a bounce and then stock heads back down. So when I see it today and I saw the news and it's $90 this morning, I'm like, do I get some calls on Baidu? I don't want to be in a spot or a situation where I've been in the past. So I just kind of sat on my hands. But you look at a lot of the China ADR names are on a roll today. And I think a lot of that, so news this morning, Baidu and Uber, right? But a lot of that move today is, I mean, it's like a signal when you have NVIDIA being able to ship those HTO chips now. It's almost like, it's like a sigh of relief, right? And you see some of these names, it's like, hey, maybe this is the start of a move in just some of the China ADR names. So anyway, maybe a name I'll visit tomorrow if there's continuation. And Joby's right at all-time highs here. Well, not all-time highs. All-time high in Joby's $17. And that same day, I think it's February 6, 2021. There it is, $13.94. It hit 1570 is the closing high in Joby. That's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back. Rock and roll.